Hello, listeners. We'll continue to read chapter 3 of the book Ikigai. So, the next paragraph, case study, the suicidal mother. The mother of a boy who had died at age 11 was admitted to Frankel's clinic after she tried to kill herself and her other son. It was this other son, paralyzed since birth, who kept her from carrying out her plan. He did believe his life had a purpose, and if his mother killed them both, it would keep him from achieving his goals. The woman shared her story in a group session. To help her, Frankel asked another woman to imagine a hypothetical situation in which she lay on her deathbed, old and wealthy but childless. The woman insisted that in that case she would have felt her life had been a failure. When the suicidal mother was asked to perform the same exercise, imagining herself on her deathbed, she looked back and realized that she had done everything in her power for her children, for both of them. She had given her paralyzed son a good life, and he had turned into a kind, reasonably happy person. To this, she added, crying, "As for myself, I can look back peacefully on my life. For I can say my life was full of meaning and I have tried hard to live it fully. I have done my best. I have done my best for my son. My life was no failure." In this way, by imagining herself on her deathbed and looking back, the suicidal mother found the meaning that, though she was not aware of it, her life already had. Another case study, the grief-stricken doctor. An elderly doctor, unable to overcome the deep depression into which he had fallen after the death of his wife 2 years earlier, went to Frankel's for help. Instead of giving him advice or analyzing his condition, Frankel asked him what would have happened if he had been the one who died first. The doctor, horrified, instead of giving him advice on analyzing his condition, Frankel asked him what would have happened if he had been the one who died first. The doctor, horrified, answered that it would have been terrible for his poor wife, that she would have suffered tremendously. To which Frankel responded, "You see, doctor, you have spared her all that suffering, but the price you have to pay for this is to survive and mourn her." The doctor didn't say another word. He left Frankel's office in peace. After taking the therapist's hand in his own, he was able to tolerate the pain in place of his beloved wife. His life had been given a purpose. Next paragraph, it's called Morita therapy. In the same decade that logotherapy came into being, a few years earlier, in fact, Shoma Morita created his own purpose-centered therapy in Japan. It proved to be effective in the treatment of neurosis, obsessive-compulsive disorder, and post-traumatic stress. In addition to being a psychotherapist, Shoma Morita was a Zen Buddhist, and his therapy left a lasting spiritual mark on Japan. Many Western forms of therapy focus on controlling or modifying the patient's emotion. In the West, we tend to believe that we think influences how we feel, which in turn influences how we act. In contrast, Morita therapy focuses on teaching patients to accept their emotions without trying to control them, since their feelings will change as a result of their actions. In addition to accepting the patient's emotion, Morita therapy seeks to create new emotions on the basis of actions. According to Morita, these emotions are learned through experience and repetition. Morita therapy is not meant to eliminate symptoms. Instead, it teaches us to accept our desires, anxieties, fears, and worries and let them go. As Morita writes in his book, Morita Therapy and the True Nature of Anxiety-Based Disorders, in feelings, it is best to be wealthy and generous. Morita explained the idea of letting go of negative feelings with the following fable. donkey that is tied to a post by a rope will keep walking around the post in an attempt to free itself, only to become more immobilized and attached to the post. The same thing applies to people with obsessive thinking who become more trapped in their own suffering when they try to escape from their fears and discomfort. The basic principles of Morita therapy: accept your feelings. If we have obsessive thoughts, we should not try to control them or get rid of them. If we do, they become more intense. Regarding human emotions, the Zen master would say, if we try to get rid of one wave with another, we end up with an infinite sea. We don't create our feelings, they simply come to us and we have to accept them. The trick is welcoming them. Morita likened emotions to the weather. We can't predict or control them, we can only observe them. To this point, he often quoted the Vietnamese monk Chi Nah Ha, who would say, "Hello, solitude. How are you today? Come, sit with me, and I will care for you." Do what you should be doing. We shouldn't focus on eliminating symptoms because recovery will come on its own. We should focus instead on the present moment. And if we are suffering, on accepting that suffering. Above all, we should avoid intellectualizing the situation. Quite right. The therapist's mission is to develop the patient's character so he or she can face any situation, and character is grounded in the things we do. Morita therapy does not offer its patients explanation, but rather allows them to learn from their actions and activities. It doesn't tell you how to meditate or how to keep a diary the way Western therapies do. It is up to the patient to make discoveries through experience. Discover your life's purpose. We can't control our emotions, but we can take charge of our actions every day. This is why we should have a clear sense of our purpose and always keep Morita's mantra in mind. What do we need to be doing right now? What action should we be taking? The key to achieving this is having dared to look inside yourself to find your Ikigai.